It was 3:22 a.m. in the Arabian Sea, and the darkness over the water 280 nautical miles southwest of the Pakistani coast was the kind of darkness that exists only far from land at night. No light pollution, no coastal glow on the horizon, nothing but the stars and the white phosphorescence in the bow wave of every vessel cutting through water that was still warm from the day's sun. The Arabian Sea in October runs at 26 degrees Celsius at the surface. The monsoon finished. The northeast trade wind just beginning to establish itself in the pre-winter transition that makes October one of the operationally cleaner months in the North Arabian Ocean. Good flying weather. Good radar weather. Good weather for exactly the kind of operation that the IRGC Aerospace Force's Unmanned Systems Directorate had spent 14 months planning. USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, was operating in the North Arabian Sea with Carrier Strike Group 9, conducting sustained strike operations and theater presence missions that had been the Lincoln's assignment for 38 days. Her air wing was fully embarked and flying daily sorties across the region. USS Mobile Bay, CG-53, the Ticonderoga-class cruiser, held the formation's northern axis 9 nautical miles ahead of the carrier. 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, USS Russell, USS John Finn, and USS Rafael Peralta, held screening positions around the formation, and the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye had been maintaining its continuous radar orbit above the strike group since 0500 the previous morning. 2 aircraft rotating through the station in the pattern that gives the Lincoln's air picture coverage without gap. The Shahed-238. The name requires careful technical attention before the engagement begins, because the Shahed-238 represents a genuine evolution in Iranian unmanned aerial vehicle capability, a departure from the propeller-driven loitering munition that the Shahed-136 represented, and an entry into the jet-powered, higher-speed attack UAV category that creates a different defensive problem from its predecessor. The Shahed-136 flies at approximately 185 kilometers per hour on its propeller engine. The Shahed-238, equipped with a small turbojet or turbofan sustainer, flies at speeds assessed by Western analysts at between 350 and 450 kilometers per hour, roughly twice the speed of the baseline system, which translates directly into compressed engagement timelines for defending ships and aircraft. The Shahed-238 retains the Shahed-136's delta wing airframe and the basic geranium-scented fuel cell configuration that ground crews who have encountered wreckage can identify. But the propulsion upgrade changes the defensive calculus in ways that the IRGC's planners believed shifted the engagement mathematics in their favor. The operational concept behind the Shahed-238 attack wave that the IRGC had spent 14 months planning was built on 3 perceived advantages over the Shahed-136 attacks that had been consistently defeated in the Red Sea theater. First, the higher speed, 400 kilometers per hour versus 185, cut the time between detection and impact approximately in half, compressing defending crews' response windows. Second, a coordinated multi-axis approach from 6 dispersed launch points across the Makran coast and from maritime platforms in the northwestern Arabian Sea, designed to saturate the strike group's defensive coverage by presenting simultaneous threats from multiple bearings rather than a single approach direction. Third, a launch time of 3 a.m., deep in the night watch cycle when human performance in CICs is statistically at its lowest ebb and the reduced staffing of the night watch is at its maximum. The three advantages combined represented the IRGC planners' best analytical answer to the question of how to defeat the defensive architecture that had repeatedly neutralized their UAV attacks in the Red Sea. The analysis was thorough. The execution would be professional. The fundamental error was in the assessment of what the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye does at 3 a.m. that it does not do at 3 p.m. Exactly the same thing, with exactly the same capability continuously, without degradation, regardless of what the human performance curve looks like on the ships below it. At 2:44 a.m., the E-2D crew on the northern sector orbit registered the first anomaly. Not a contact. Not yet. What the aircraft's electronic intelligence collection suite registered was an increase in encrypted IRGC communications traffic from direction-finding bearings consistent with coastal launch sites along the Pakistani Makran coast, and from two maritime surface contacts in the western Arabian Sea that had been operating under nominal fishing vessel AIS identifications, but whose communication emissions were inconsistent with fishing operations. The traffic pattern matched pre-launch coordination signatures that American Signals Intelligence had cataloged from 7 previous Houthi and IRGC UAV attack operations in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden theater. The E-2D crew flagged the assessment at 2:46 a.m. and pushed it to the Lincoln's strike group on the Tactical Coordination Net. Probable UAV launch preparation activity, multiple sites, coordinated timing indicators, assess imminent. The Lincoln's strike group went to heightened readiness posture at 2:48 a.m. Not full general quarters. The assessment was probable, not confirmed, and escalating to full battle stations on every ship in the formation on the basis of signals intelligence indicators alone would exhaust crews and drain readiness for confirmed threats. What the heightened posture did was bring every Aegis radar to full active search, confirm VLS cell status across the formation, put the F/A-18F alert fighters at immediate readiness on the Lincoln's flight deck, and ensure that every CIC watch team was at full manning with the senior watch officers in their seats. 14 minutes of preparation before the first Shahed-238 lifted off. 14 minutes that the IRGC's operational timing had not accounted for in their pre-launch window. The launches began at 3:02 a.m., 2 minutes after the planned H-hour that the IRGC coordination had established. The 2-minute delay was a consequence of a fueling issue at one of the Makran Coast launch sites that had backed up the sequencing. A small mechanical problem whose tactical significance would become apparent in the engagement's final minutes. The E-2D's AN/APY-9 radar, operating in its low-altitude air search mode from 25,000 feet, acquired the first contacts at 3:02 a.m. and 44 seconds. 44 seconds after the first Shahed-238 cleared its launch rail and climbed above the coastal terrain, masking that had kept it below the radar horizon for the initial 10 seconds of flight. 1 contact, then 3, then 7. The count built rapidly as the simultaneous launches from 6 dispersed sites produced contacts clearing their respective terrain, masking within a 40-second window. 11, 16, 22, 26. The final count stabilized at 3:03 a.m. and 51 seconds. 28 Shahed-238 jet-powered attack UAVs inbound from 5 separate approach bearings. The formation spread across 140 degrees of azimuth around the strike group's northern and western arcs. 28 Shahed-238s from 5 directions at 400 kilometers per hour. The contact data was on Link 16, and in every CIC in the strike group at 3:04 a.m. The Lincoln's strike group commander had the full picture at 3:04 a.m. and 20 seconds. He looked at 28 inbound contacts, 5 bearing groups, speeds consistent with jet-powered UAV rather than propeller-driven system, ranges from 95 to 148 nautical miles at first detection. At 400 kilometers per hour, the nearest contacts would reach the formation's outer engagement boundary in approximately 53 minutes. The farthest, launched from the most distant Makran coast site, would arrive 12 minutes later. Not a simultaneous saturation problem, a sequential problem spread across a 12-minute window. Against a cooperative engagement architecture backed by 5 Aegis systems and 2 elevated radar platforms, a 12-minute sequential problem is a completion exercise. 2 FA-18F Super Hornets from VFA-25, the Fist of the fleet, were airborne from the Lincoln's flight deck at 3:07 a.m. Armed with AIM-120D AMRAAMs and AIM-9X Sidewinders in their air intercept configuration, they climbed to 28,000 feet and turned northwest toward the bearing group with the largest contact cluster. 11 Shahed-238 EAD approaching from the northwest on a bearing that placed them between 2 nautical miles and 8 nautical miles apart in lateral spacing. The Fist of the Fleet pilots had the E-2D's track data on their displays from the moment they cleared the Lincoln's deck. They were not searching for targets. They were executing a fire allocation sequence against a contact list that had been fully developed and continuously updated for the previous 17 minutes. The EA-18G Growler from VAQ-137, the Rooks, launched at 3:09 a.m. and climbed to 22,000 feet on an orbit northwest of the formation. The Rook's mission in this engagement was different from a traditional jamming role against the Shahed-238. The Shahed-238's guidance in its transit phase uses a combination of GPS navigation and inertial reference. It does not rely on a radar emitter that can be jammed in the traditional sense. The Rook's active jamming capability, however, applied to the GPS frequency bands, could degrade the Shahed-238's navigation accuracy in the terminal phase, introducing position errors that would move the missile's impact points away from the carrier's hull. GPS jamming in the L-band was not a guaranteed kill. A Shahed-238 with degraded GPS navigation might still impact water within the formation's maneuvering area. But against missiles arriving in the formation's inner defensive zone, every meter of aim point displacement added margin to the CIWS and RAM engagement geometry. The Rooks activated their GPS jamming at 3:14 a.m. The jamming footprint centered on the Lincoln's projected position and extending 12 nautical miles in every direction. Now, let us address the specific speed advantage of the Shahed-238 and why the IRGC's planners were correct that 400 kilometers per hour creates a different defensive problem from 185 kilometers per hour. And then explain why that different problem was still comprehensively solved by the architecture arrayed against it. The Shahed-136, flying at 185 kilometers per hour at an approach range of 150 nautical miles, gives a defending ship approximately 177 minutes of engagement time from first detection to terminal arrival. The Shahed-238, flying at 400 kilometers per hour at the same detection range, gives approximately 82 minutes. 82 minutes is less than 177 minutes. It is significantly less. It is also still 82 minutes against a system that can compute engagement solutions, fire, assess, refire, and manage a 28-target problem across 5 bearing groups with the Aegis combat system's computational architecture in approximately 4 minutes from first contact classification to first weapons release. The speed advantage that the Shahed-238 represented over its predecessor was real. The margin by which it compressed the engagement timeline still left the defending force with 78 minutes of action margin. That margin was decisive. The first AIM-120 DAMRAM from the Fist of the Fleet, Lid Pilot's weapons bay, left the aircraft at 3:19 a.m., targeted against the lead Shahed-238 in the northwest bearing group at 76 nautical miles. The AIM-120D's active seeker, climbing above the target altitude before pitching down to the intercept geometry, acquired the Shahed-238's radar return at 8.2 nautical miles range. Small but coherent, the jet-powered UAV's turbojet exhaust also providing a secondary infrared acquisition cue for the AMRAAM's backup seeker modes. The missile guided to detonation. First, Shahed-238 neutralized. The lead pilot was already designating his second target before the first detonation occurred. The Fist of the Fleet wingman engaged the second bearing group. 9 contacts approaching from west-northwest, with a ripple fire of 3 AMRAAMs in quick succession. The fire discipline that the rules of engagement and the engagement geometry permitted at ranges where target discrimination was unambiguous and each expenditure was against a confirmed inbound threat. 3 neutralized in the west-northwest bearing group. The lead pilot fired twice more in the northwest group. 5 Shahed-238s neutralized in the outer layer by 3:24 a.m. Both Super Hornets repositioning for their second engagement pass. USS Mobile Bay's Aegis combat system fired the first SM-2 Block IIIB at 3:21 a.m. against the lead contact in the southwest bearing group, the approach sector that the Super Hornet's geometry had not covered, and that Mobile Bay's position in the formation put within her optimal engagement range. The SM-2's semi-active seeker, guided by the AN/SPY-1B illumination radar using the E-2D's elevated track data to maintain the engagement against the low-altitude, relatively small cross-section Shahed-238, achieved its intercept at 41 nautical miles. USS John Finn fired simultaneously against the second contact in the same bearing group. USS Russell and USS Rafael Peralta took the southeast and south bearing groups respectively, their Aegis systems coordinating target assignments through the cooperative engagement architecture in the deconfliction sequence that prevented any target from being engaged twice while any target was left unengaged. The engagement lasted 31 minutes from the first AMRAAM release to the last defensive system engagement. 28 Shahed-238S entered the engagement. The accounting by layer. Outer layer, F/A, 18F Super Hornets with AIM-120D, 9 Shahed-238s neutralized at 44 to 76 nautical miles from the formation center. The 2 Fist of the Fleet pilots worked through their AMRAAM loads with the discipline and efficiency of air crews who had trained for exactly this target type, and whose targeting data was being continuously updated by an E-2D that never lost track of a single contact. Middle layer, SM-2 Block IIIB from Mobile Bay, John Finn, Russell, and Rafael Peralta. 14 Shahed-238s neutralized at 16 to 38 nautical miles. The SM-2's engagement performance against the Shahed-238 required the ship's illumination radars to maintain stable track against targets that were smaller than typical air defense targets, but not small enough to challenge the Spy-1 family's tracking capability at these ranges, particularly with the E-2D's elevated picture supplementing the surface radar tracks. Inner layer: ESSM Block 2 and RAM. 4. Shahed-238 S neutralized at 4 to 11 nautical miles. The 4 that reached the inner layer were from the Southeast Bearing Group. The contacts whose approach had been partially screened by the formation's own radar shadow and whose engagement had fallen to the Rafael Peralta, whose VLS inventory had been partially depleted by her middle layer engagements, and whose ESSM allocation required careful management across the 4 surviving contacts. All 4 were neutralized. The last, a Shahed-238 that had taken GPS jamming-induced aim point displacement and was tracking 340 meters north of the Lincoln's actual position, was engaged by the forward Phalanx CIWS at 2.7 nautical miles and neutralized 2.7 nautical miles from the carrier's hull. 1 contact from the Phalanx. The GPS jamming the Rooks had applied since 3:14 a.m. had displaced that missile's terminal aim point by 340 meters. A displacement that had no tactical significance against an undisturbed CIWS engagement, but that represented the difference between a guidance-accurate weapon aimed at the carrier's island structure and a guidance-degraded weapon aimed at empty water 340 meters away. The Rooks had contributed 340 meters of terminal aim point error to one Shahed-238's final flight path. That 340 meters cost the IRGC their last opportunity. The Lincoln's flight deck resumed normal operations at 4:11 a.m. The after-action ammunition log recorded 9 AIM-1 20D AMRAAMs, 14 SM, 2 Block IIIB, 4 ESSM Block 2, 1 Phalanx burst engagement. All 28 Shahed-238S confirmed neutralized. 0 impacts on any vessel in Carrier Strike Group 9. The Lincoln's commanding officer reviewed the expenditure summary, noted that the VLS restocking request would need to be prioritized in the combat logistics cycle, and returned to the bridge watch. The next day's flight schedule would launch at 600 as planned. The intelligence exploitation of the engagement provided a data set on the Shahed-238's operational performance, speed, altitude profile, GPS navigation characteristics, turbojet emission signature, that updated the threat library used by every E-2D crew, every Aegis operator, and every fighter pilot in the theater. The Rook's GPS jamming assessment was particularly valuable. The 340-meter aim point displacement observed on the final contact, combined with the flight profile data from the other 27 intercepts, allowed analysts to refine their models of the Shahed-238's GPS dependency at different flight phases and identify the specific jamming power levels and frequency selections that produce the most significant navigation degradation against this airframe's guidance architecture. In Tehran, the IRGC Aerospace Force's Unmanned Systems Directorate was writing the engagement assessment that their leadership needed. The assessment would note the technical improvements the Shahed-238 represented over its predecessor: twice the speed, improved navigation, higher approach kinetic energy. It would note the multi-axis attack geometry had been executed as planned across all 6 launch sites within the coordination window. It would note that the formation's heightened readiness posture, established 14 minutes before the first launch, had been achieved through signals intelligence indicators that the pre-launch communication security procedures had not prevented. It would address the GPS jamming that had displaced the last contact's aim point and recommend encryption approaches for the navigation system's GPS receiver that might reduce that vulnerability. And it would document, with the specific precision of professionals who take their work seriously regardless of outcome, the 28 Shahed-238s had been launched, and 28 had been neutralized without achieving a single impact against their target. The Shahed-238's speed advantage is real. At 400 kilometers per hour, it is twice as fast as the Shahed-136. Against a defending force with an E-2D that detects it at 95 to 148 nautical miles and 82 minutes of engagement time, twice as fast as 177 minutes is still 82 minutes. And 82 minutes is what it is. Time that the Aegis combat system, the Super Hornets, and the Rook's GPS jamming used to neutralize 28 jet-powered attack UAVs without a single one touching the hull of the most powerful warship in the Arabian Sea. The E-2D does not sleep. The Aegis system does not have a 3 a.m. performance curve. The cooperative engagement architecture does not get tired. Those are the facts that 14 months of IRGC operational planning had not found an answer to. The Arabian Sea stayed open. The Lincoln kept flying. And the next morning's strike package launched at exactly 0600 as scheduled. 28 Shahed-238s notwithstanding. Bye for now.